Steve, hello, how are you doing? Subscribe, like, do what you please, etc. Today I'm looking at ambient song arrangement. So the idea is that you start off, you get a loop, and what do you do with it? So you need to take that loop into an arrangement. How do you do that? How do you expand from that awesome idea that you've got and take it out there? So I'm going to show you a document which you can download for free, and then we'll get stuck into the stuff. So here we go. This is your traditional song structure, the elements in a traditional song structure. Pop songs, you more think about it relating to, but it actually pans out into other types of music, which I'll show you how it works for ambient as well. I'm not going to go in too much into this. These are the elements, and I'll show you what it looks like on an arrangement. And in terms of song structure, I've covered a few of the different things and how things go together, but you'd be quite surprised actually when you do listen to something, even though it feels like it hasn't got much form, it does sometimes still just fit into a little bit of a structure. So you'll have your traditional thing, introduction, a bit like a pop song, classic ambient, music as wallpaper, just things happening, going on. You'll have your loop-based stuff where it literally is a loop that's changing or a loop that's mixing in, like music for airports. Drone stuff which develops over time, which still has a structure because you start off a little bit low, but if you go like 2 minutes ahead it changes drastically, but in between that it's all about how the subtle changes work. Your minimalism is kind of how I always started off making music. Bring one element in, the next, everything's playing, things drop out, that sort of feel to it. And then freeform of just literally just jamming and seeing what happens. But you naturally fall into a way of doing something. You naturally create tension. You naturally create release. It's just what you do as a person because it's the things that the brain likes to hear. So you do fall, no matter what you do, into some kind of form. Because if it is truly formless, then it does just become wallpaper and it sits in the background. So I'm going to show you now what it's like, what the stuff's like on the arrangement in Ableton. Here we go. That is on the top bar. So all I've done here is just use MIDI tracks. They're turned off, there's no instrumentation, and I'm just using the markers in the track to actually show you the structure. It's a classic structure, similar to what you've got in the info sheet. This is the shortened classic structure, your typical pop song. We've got melodic ambient there, a one melody ambient, and another version of a one melody ambient. So these are all things, if I zoom in, that happen. These are sort of atypical things that happen as you develop a tune. So your intro will be a bit of a thing going on, a bit of a soundscape. There'll be a bit of a thing from sounds from later because there's a bit of anticipation. You might have open filters expanding the sounds, the theme comes out expanded. But you notice what I've done is color coded these to simulate, well, we're talking about a pre-chorus here. So when that filter opens, it's similar to a pre-chorus. And the expanded theme is like the chorus, and then dropping out sounds is like a middle eight. And then it comes back into the chorus, which is like a chorus again. So all of these are color coded so you can see that actually it is still a song structure. No matter what you do, you can still do it. So I've got two AES Dana tracks here. I'm not going to play them because I don't want a copyright strike, but you can see these correlate to the sound waves. So for the first track, which is Borderline, this actually, you can see here, we've got the soundscape, and you can see when the bass and the rhythm come in, there's a little bit of added rhythm. So I've sectioned these so it's still a verse, but it's just a little bit of a different side of a verse. And we've got added melodic stuff, which goes in the next section. And you'll see this breakdown is like a pre-chorus because it breaks right down and it's building you up ready for the chorus. And then that section kicks in. You can see the rhythm in there. There's a short breakdown again, back into that main chorus section. And I've looked at this as a post-chorus because it goes into a 4-to-the-floor beat and it's pretty full on. So it's kind of a build-up again from the chorus. And then we've got a little bit of variation to it, but it is still that sort of post-chorus thing. And again there until we get to the outro when it just drops right down and chills out. The other one, by the way, for analysing these tracks, I've dragged them in, found out off the internet what the BPM is. This one was correct. On the internet it said this one was 149, but it's actually 150. So you just drag them and align them up with the bars in Ableton, and it's really, really easy then to do a bit of an analysis like this on them. So you can see we've got a similar thing. We've got the intro, we've got a verse type section, a dropout, pre-chorus, got a chorus. We've got in this one, we've got more of a middle 8 section, so it drops out, but again, it's building back up to that chorus section again. And you've got another sort of middle 8 type feel thing, another chorus type feel thing, and then you've got a real breakdown, which I've said is going back to verse. That's the whole feeling. It feels like it's going back to a verse. Technically, it's sort of not, but if you're doing your own tracks and you want to experiment with structures like this, then it's kind of that feel that it's going right back to a verse. And then there's a few things happening, so I've kept these sort of sections just to reflect what's happening in it. We've got a little bit of a middle 8 because it's a drop, goes into a chorus, drop, chorus, bit of a drop, chorus, and then we get to the outro. So I'll make this available without the audio. So you've got a selection of tracks, and what I'll show you now is how this actually works in practice. How do you take a loop, drop it in the middle, and make sense of this actual structure? Here we have a track. This is an old track that I did in Reason, and when I did it in Reason it sounded shite, so I redid it in Ableton and took the elements, and basically for a lot of it I sampled it. So what it was using was actually probably my second favourite. There's a from Electric Panda in Reason called Torsion, and it's a granular synth, but it's just totally mental. It's got a randomization button. I have absolutely no idea how to use it, but you push that random button and awesome things happen. That's all I know. These that are all sampled from it. So I've got this loop here, which I'll play. There you go. All the elements that I pulled from it, all working together. Job's a good one. How the hell do I make that into a track? So because I actually already did this video, but forgot to push play on the screen record, I've got a kind of structure set up already. So what I did was I dragged in Borderline from AES-Dana. I've changed the tempo because I wanted to go for 100. I'm just going to click this button, so we're using here. And if I zoom in, try that again even. If I zoom in, this is where I dragged all of the loops. So I pulled this one out a little bit. I dragged them straight into the chorus because that is my everything playing section. Drag them in there. I'll extend some of these things out a little bit. And then where do you go from here? So we've got this section. But how do we actually build up to it? So I've used that AES-Dana, the breakdown section here. That's before we actually get into that main thing, the main chorus, before it jumps right up. So I'll probably actually extend that. I'm going to make that 8 bars. And then probably, I think, push that up an octave, put that up to there. So that'll lead straight into it. And it probably needs a little bit more, so I'll also hold down Alt and make it into the 2. So what that's done is, because I've got that structure there, I know that that's a breakdown before it gets into it, so I can start working backwards and thinking, that'll go there. That's obviously not all I'm going to have in that breakdown. Now I kind of want a bit of a pad sound. I feel like I want some sort of noise sound, which is something I haven't already got in there. So I have some samples which I'll probably drag in. I'm going to create a new MIDI track. And into that MIDI track, I'll just drag this noise riser. It'll go straight into a simpler. And let's see about creating something maybe here. I'll right click and insert empty MIDI clips. And C3 is the default when you put it in a simpler. That plays this sample exactly as it is. So if I play that. That actually works quite nicely without anything on it, doesn't it? So I'll put the release up a tiny little bit. I'm going to I'll put the gain down by -1, actually maybe -2 dB because it was a touch loud. I think that quite works nicely if we've got a breakdown from that section there into that. We've got that noise rise. And on here, I always like to go back to this main screen. If I'm moving out of session view, drag the faders up so you can see a lot more, and then it makes it a lot easier to use the sends. Now I don't actually have anything on the return track, so I'm going to grab a Valhalla into that, and because I'm doing a video I'll use the Supermassive, being that it's nice and free. And let's go for C-beams, 100% mix. That might be a little bit too much on that noise riser. See what that sounds like. Yeah, that works quite nicely because we've still got that little bit of a shimmer in the background once it's gone off. So what I've done is started to put things thinking, all right, on the intro, this is what the Astana thing had. It had a distorted pad rising and falling and tension building in the soundscape. So I've got this bell sample, this granular bell sample sort of kicking things off. Quite happy with that. Now it needs a little bit more work to it, but then I go into this operator kick. It's a sort of high frequency kick because we're adding elements of the rhythm, and you can see what Astana's done. He's got more elements of the rhythm added. So I've got this other section bringing in rhythm here, and we've got this, it's a sub-boom bass, but I've used it as an instrument because I kind of accidentally played a key and it sounded quite nice. So that rhythm there, I probably want to bring something more in here, which I think will be possibly that if it's not a kick. There we go, that works quite nicely. Now we'll still have the bell sounds in here, so it all kind of works together. So we've got that now, and that's kind of starting to come together as a structure. Now I could just copy paste everything I've got here, but it's nice to have a little bit of variation. So I'll do it just to have, actually not that section, just to have something in there, along with these two sections. And that kick. So when we get to here, we've got quite a bit going on. I'll drag this out. Then we fall into that breakdown section, everything comes up. And we're straight into that main theme. So if we go into that, that's a short break section. So we'd have everything playing and again create a little bit of variation. Go into that short break. We can almost just now drag everything that's here over to where it restarts. But when it restarts, we want to add something a little bit different. So we might even pop that noise riser over here, but cut it down a little bit so it's slightly lower. But because it's more of a middle 8 section, we'll probably have like a little bit of a melodic variation. So you can really feel if we've got that playing and then it drops out again and that comes back in again, it creates a real nice feel to it. So to copy this, I would then turn around and actually increase that rhythm. I'll go down to a 4 to the floor and something a little bit more and go to the outro. So this is obviously a part of what you can do. I'm never going to do the whole thing because it takes quite a lot of time to get that done. But it's a really good way, really cool way, and you can use the reference track if that's what you're going to be using. Copy the reference track onto there as well, using one of the stuff like I've got in the template, and you can start A/B-ing as well as looking at the song structure. Now, I think a lot of the time you should use this as a guide, because if I look at this, I might think, do you know what? That drop down bit there, I'm going to move that there. I probably don't like that as much. I'll pull that back there. I'm going to have a longer middle 8 section, and I'm going to do that. But what it does is it gives you the flexibility to be able to do these things. You can take your track and say, well, actually that doesn't really work here, and just start chopping and changing around, develop your own arrangements. But that guide at the top, that will save you so much time and hassle. That was one of the biggest things that I couldn't do when I started doing music, because I just didn't know what to do. I just ended up copy pasting everything out and then got bored because there was no variation, there was nothing happening. I didn't really understand how to make things happen. Whereas if you can take the lessons from other people and then adapt them to your music, jobs are good. Thank you very much for watching. I will be putting another video up fairly soon, giving a sort of progress on the album stuff I'm doing. So I've kind of pivoted a bit and started using different sounds. This is going to be one of the tracks that I use in the album that I'm going to develop on it as well. Catch you on the next one. Subscribe, like again, all that sort of thing. Any questions, ask below, etc. Goodbye.